What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 166 of Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone, brought to you by Solozo and Netrush.
There you go. Throw it in there now, right?
That's right. So fun to say that. This has been such a fun partnership. It's great. Like yesterday, we had Rob on from Netrush talking sort of about the full overview, and today we've got one of Netrush's experts, logistics experts, on with us today because we're going to be talking all about. I mean, there's so many logistics problems right now in the industry. I mean, we all hear the stories. We're all living it. And we want to know sort of what that landscape looks like and then what the future holds for inventory and inventory forecasting and logistics and everything else that we're dealing with. So we're so excited. We've got Brian Birch on with us. Brian, what's up?
How you doing? Doing great.
Oh, we are great. We're excited to have you on. It's been really fun getting to know you over the last month or so since we've merged, and you're a blast to talk to, and we like talking football with you.
Yeah.
We can just go ahead and get out of the way right now. Obviously, we are massive Chiefs fans, and you're a Broncos fan.
Yeah, I kind of grew up in Denver, so it was you didn't have much choice. I remember growing up yelling at the television, watching John Elway do his magic. So yeah, it stuck with me, man.
I love it. This is such a fun time of year, and they're playing tomorrow, or not tomorrow. They're playing Sunday night. The game got flexed, so the NFL knows what's up. They know this is the best game of the week, and we're playing Sunday night football. So cannot wait. Monday morning might be a little rough. Every party all Sunday night. So
one of us is probably one or two of us is going to be unhappy that next morning.
Yeah, I know,
right? No doubt. But well, let's do this. We'd love to just get a little bit about your background, just sort of how you got. We know you've got a really interesting story. So I mean, you can start from the beginning. But how did you get involved in the logistics space to begin with, and then how did you end up working at Netrush, and what is your role right now at Netrush? You take some time to give us the story.
You bet. I'll start kind of at the beginning. So once I graduated from college, I jumped into my first job, which was at Motorola, so doing operations there, and did operations probably about 5-6 different years, different companies. And what I saw in manufacturing is just this massive up and down industry. We were either hiring or laying off, and I was always concerned I'd be that next person that was laid off. So tried to find something a little more secure, and a couple of friends went into supply chain with Target, and I followed them over and spent a couple of years learning operations and supply chain at Target. And then I seem to follow friends around because a couple of friends left Target and went to this smaller kind of startup company, and it literally was way back in the day, called Amazon. And so I spent almost 9 years at Amazon, which in like Amazon years, that's like 60 years any other place. I think an 8-to-1 ratio. But went in there and for the first 7 years did about everything you can do in their fulfillment centers. So I ran some departments, ran some buildings, did some regional leadership type stuff. And then for 2 years, I actually was senior project manager and built all the Amazon buildings. So when you hear about all those 1 million square foot behemoth FCs, I was the guy who was in charge of all the project managers making that happen. And that's why you see a lot of these gray hairs, because they breakneck pace, a shoestring budget, and had to land the plane exactly when Amazon said so. So that was fun. I got a lot of experience there. But probably the coolest part of my time at Amazon was the last 2 years. So I switched over to be the senior manager in charge of quality for Fulfillment by Amazon. Now, what that meant was I got to spend 2 years traveling the country, meeting some of the biggest, most influential sellers out there, and learn what their operations were like. I would kind of bring some of my FC background and help them integrate better, but was also kind of just seeing what were the tools, what was Amazon missing. So it was almost an outreach program. So I got to kind of take some intel back to Amazon and said, the sellers built this because we didn't create it. And so it was really cool to be able to hand some of that stuff off to the tech teams. And then fast forward to about 8 years ago, that's when actually I met Kris and Brian, so co-founders of Netrush. They were one of the first sellers I visited with FBA. And we started visiting sellers a little more frequently. And for the last about 12 months with Amazon, I visited Netrush probably once every 6 weeks, really deeply integrating with them, learning their tools, doing more and more projects with them, and came to learn that like the favorite part of my job was interacting with Netrush. And so, kind of was looking to make a change and do something a little different, and started talking to Brian and Kris, and came aboard here. So I am the Chief Supply Chain Officer. I deal with brown boxes moving left to right in buildings. So on a little higher level, look at the strategy, direction. What does a 3 to 5 year plan look like? Really making sure that not only can we import stuff for our brands, can we move them domestically, can we get them into Amazon, can we do direct to consumer shipments? So basically the full array of meeting customers wherever they want to be.
So it's not very often that we get somebody on here that actually worked at Amazon and in Amazon. So tell me about that, because that's like a black hole. And I know, Dustin, you've had inventory issues and I've had inventory issues. What is that like working in the warehouse?
It's fascinating. So to give you scale, and I don't know if you guys know, but I'll treat you like you don't. Most buildings at Amazon are about 1.2 million square feet. They have about 1,000 people working on them non-peak, and then about 3,000 to 4,000 during peak. So, I mean, it's the size of small cities, literally physically the size of a small city, as well as has as many people kind of like there working. So when you want to talk about inventory issues, like Amazon, believe it or not, is pretty world-class in inventory management. But when you're dealing with millions of transactions a day, so they have the ability to bring in 1 million units and ship 1 million units, but every unit has to be received, it has to be stowed, it has to be picked, it has to be packed, and it has to be shipped. So if you just do the math, I mean, you're talking literally millions upon millions of transactions per day. Even the best systems with like Six Sigma quality and all that great stuff is going to have just weird stuff happen. And in my history, and I was actually a quality manager there in the FCs for a couple of years. When you start digging into stuff, it's never just one mistake. It's several mistakes that compound upon each other. And there's no good reason like why these things happen. I wish I could, tell you, of just really valid, reasons and whatnot. But it's always just this comedy of errors that happen. And I know it's super frustrating as a seller. Like I see it all the time on the Netrush side. You guys are sellers. You see it all the time on your side. But it's Amazon has generally very good inventory management practices. They scan everything, they count everything, goes across, weight checks at the end. But it's a lot of fun trying to dive into like what happened on some of this stuff, and then trying to make it right for the sellers too is always pretty challenging.
What was that like coming from Target, at that time, and then going to Amazon? Completely different, I guess, processes, right?
Night and day. So Target distribution is exactly like their stores. It's pretty, it's done up. It's even their warehouses are actually very customer facing. They got lots of pictures and it's clean and it's pretty. Amazon back in the day, especially 17 years ago, was not that way. It felt like someone had kind of cobbled something together out of their garage and threw it into a warehouse. And it was a little rough and tumble. I mean, they've gotten a lot better, a lot more professional over the years. But what's interesting, I say, in terms of supply chain, is that Target dealt, at least in the area I was in, very specifically with like pallet in, pallet out, large volumes going to stores. Amazon obviously is 100% direct to consumer. And so the supply chain's a big field, but it's really radically different when you're talking about big box distribution versus direct to consumer distribution. D2C is tough. The level of experience, the room for error, the customer facing impact of it all, super hard to do. And that's why in like the 3PL world, direct to consumer shipment is tough. And you got to find the right 3PL that can do it well, that has expertise in it, that really understands the impact they have. And I'll go off on a little tangent here. I like telling them.
No, keep going.
That's great.
Yeah, in the world of e-commerce, you get two, and at least in my opinion, you get two times where you get to wow a customer. The first one is on the website. It is content, it is catalog, it is all the great terms, funnel and conversion and all that. I know like that much about it, but you get to wow the customer in that experience. The less sexy part is my world, and that is e-commerce fulfillment. So they may have this absolutely wonderful time on your website, have this great customer experience there. But if the box shows up late, if it shows up damaged, it shows up wet, it shows up whatever, that whole experience is ruined. The customer holds not only the brand, but like Amazon, fully accountable for that entire experience. And so, that's kind of where our world comes in is how do we make sure that all the stuff that's done up front to make the customer happy and want to buy and do all that stuff, really finishing off that experience by making sure it shows up, to their front door exactly when they want it, how they want it, undamaged. And just even opening that box, like it can be a magical experience at times. So you got to make sure that you get that wow factor in there.
You got it exactly right. I ordered some product off a website, not Amazon, on Black Friday. And today is Wednesday or Thursday, and I still don't have it. And I'm emailing the store like, hey, where's my package? And you think about it, like it's only Thursday, right? Like it hasn't been that long. But I ordered it on Friday. I expected it like Tuesday or Monday. but that experience, even though the product may be good, the shipping time that I'm getting here is like, okay, do I really want to go through that hassle again if I order something from that store again, or do I just want to go to Amazon and find something similar?
Oh yeah, and Amazon's created a very unique customer expectation. I might age myself a bit here, but I remember when like 7 to 10 day delivery was like, that's what you got, and if you were ordering overseas, it was like 30 days, and you were happy to get it by then. And then in comes Amazon, and they start moving that expectation. Now if you don't get it in 1 or 2 days, like there's a moral outrage. It's like you've somehow been cheated of an experience. And I'm probably the worst of it. Like, I'll travel sometimes, and where I might be traveling, like I'll have that like 1 or 2 hour delivery, and like I don't need it in 1 or 2 hours. I may be there all week and don't eat it till the time I leave. But like, there's a novelty of like hitting that and seeing, you start your clock and seeing how fast they can get it here. Amazon, right or wrong, has changed customer expectations and behaviors to the point that even if you're not buying off Amazon, to your point, like that expectation is there. And it doesn't matter what they say in terms of delivery times. It's like, I expect it in 1 or 2 days. That's just,
I paid for shipping. So I was like, really expected it on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than paying for shipping, like again, that you feel cheated. Like bury that into the price of the item. You're like happier with that than actually having to call out and pay it. Ugh, yeah.
It is. You're totally right. It's amazing what Amazon did and how they completely changed everything with that. Like you said, I mean, you see a shipping price and you're like, you just move on. You go to somewhere else. I mean, I would like, it's weird, this psychology. You'd rather almost pay more for the product with free shipping than pay. It's very strange how that works out. But yeah, the expectation is now, 2 days max, free shipping. They changed all of that. It's fascinating how they did it. And that's why you see a lot of like direct to consumer websites. You'll see people search for products online, go to the website, and then immediately transition to Amazon and see if they can buy it there. They trust that shipping. I trust that shipping. It's going to happen. It's an amazing model.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was reading an article it was just yesterday. Dave Clark, the SVP or whatever of over at Amazon, has announced that by the end of this year, beginning of next year, they will be the largest shipping company in the United States. Let that sink in for a minute. They were just dabbling with this like a year or two ago, and I'm in Northern Kentucky, right outside of the CBG airport, and it's hard not to look up these days and not see an Amazon airplane, let alone trucks and deliveries, vans and everything else. It's amazing when Amazon starts throwing out their tentacles, man. They don't stop. Like they just take over. So it's pretty interesting.
What do you think's going on with Walmart? I'm just curious, like, because obviously they have the places, they have the stores, but they're not. It's not to Amazon scale yet, right? Like, obviously you can't get there. But where do you think they're at? Are they like pre-Amazon 2004, 3? Like, where are they at, you think?
I think they are. I think they're competing with Amazon, but their supply chain like differentiation is very. They're going a different direction than Amazon. Amazon, they're throwing up fulfillment centers left and right. I used to have like a map of where they all are at, but I like, you just can't even keep up with that anymore. So Amazon, like I said, it went really big FCs, tried to get everything everywhere, pretty darn fast. Walmart, I think, is realizing they've got a different value proposition, which is, I forget the percentage, but a ridiculous amount of the US population lives within like 10 miles of a Walmart.
It's high. It's like 90%.
Yeah, it's a crazy number. And so I think Walmart is realizing that's their advantage. And so I think you see them looking at, buy online, pick up in stores. You have them, local deliveries in certain markets. One of the big differences there, though, is that like your average Amazon fulfillment center, any big box fulfillment center literally can hold millions of unique items. Whereas your normal brick and mortar store is literally only in like the tens of thousands of items. So if you're looking for everyday, I wouldn't call it generic stuff, but like, essential stuff, Walmart's going to be very competitive. What they have a lot to catch up on is the assortment. One day, way back in the day, Amazon used to have a battle cry of they want to sell everything, which is pretty, it's a big goal, to sell everything. I think they backed off that a little bit because the cost benefit of shipping, large, big, weird stuff, kind of outweighs. But I think Walmart is really positioning themselves differently. They announced a year or two ago about Walmart Fulfillment Services, which is the equivalent of FBA, and I think they're racing towards that, trying to make the barriers easier. And they're in an interesting position too. Being second and chasing first isn't necessarily bad. Amazon knocks down a lot of barriers, learns a lot of lessons, and you can glide, off that pretty easily. So I think Walmart is learning a lot of the bumps and issues that Amazon had through the years, but is rapidly making a move towards, like, how do we, he's talking about, seller frustrations, like, how do we break that down before it even starts? Like, how are we more transparent in our inventory transactions? And I think they're really trying to capitalize on being second place. Like I said, it's not always that bad.
You obviously got a lot of knowledge in this space. If you were tasked with the role to improve Walmart's fulfillment and speed to customer, where would you start? Where would be like the 10,000 foot level? Where would you first start out to get that moving better for them?
And you guys probably could speak to this better than I can, but just looking at the market, very specifically at the seller market, I think 10, 15 years ago, Amazon was this golden paradise. It was easy to get in, it was easy to use, it was just fantastic. You could almost fall backwards and land in a pile of money. Nowadays, I don't think it's that way anymore. There's a lot, and for good reason. I mean, I think Amazon becoming much more professional. A lot of guardrails around sellers and items, and I think it's healthy. But I think it's made it increasingly difficult for sellers to navigate that marketplace. Hence the growth of a lot of agencies in this area. I think Walmart has a unique opportunity to start thinking about sellers first and seeing how can we make that journey onto their platform? How do we make those transactions easy? How do we make reconciliation easy? I come from an inventory world. I come from an inventory world, so everything looks like an inventory problem to me. But if they could simplify that. And really make it easy to get on, list items, get onto their platform, like I said, reconcile inventory, and then how, I would talk about earlier, then how do they strategically use their stores to make offerings very competitive out there? I think they're doing that already. I mean, it's obvious from where they're at. That's kind of like the chip they've got to play at the table. But I think if you focus on that seller experience and really making, breaking down barriers and making things a little easier for folk to get on and really see how their business is doing.
I hope they do. I hope they really press forward, because I do feel like more competition on Amazon for the third-party sellers will be huge in terms of maybe, we talked a little bit about this with Rob yesterday, just if there's competition, then you can compete with like lower fees to sell on Amazon or sell on Walmart. You can be attractive and I think it could help all third-party sellers get a better offering from these marketplaces to list their services. But Walmart has a long way to go. It's clunky. It's kind of like you said, their interface is messy. Their listings are all over the place. They're not consolidated like they are on Amazon. Advertising hasn't caught up yet. There's a lot, but I'm excited for the future of that, and I hope there's more marketplaces like that. But to your point about I go back to a story of like when Kris and I started, the entire reason we were able to launch businesses like one-man shows and launch brands was specifically because of this amazing fulfillment strategy that Amazon had. I mean, we were able to basically almost never touch our own products and manage everything digitally. And it was incredible. It revolutionized everything. There's millions of successful business owners because of that Amazon model. And now that's shifting. And this is what we're going to talk about a little bit more. But, Amazon now is more of like a just-in-time inventory center. When I started, I could order 10,000 units of something that had would sell 1,000 units a month. Put them all in Amazon.
Flood them in there.
There's hardly when I started, I don't even think there was storage fees. And all of that's changing. And now they're really rating you like on your inventory score. And it's like you need to keep like 2 weeks of inventory in there or 3 weeks, and you got to constantly be sending it in, which now people are looking at brands. You have to have 3PLs. Yeah, you have to have some middle ground to store. And then of course there's, you're trying to fulfill off of your D2C sites. So it's becoming more complex, which is, not necessarily a bad thing for us as brand owners, because sometimes the people that are willing to jump through the complex hoops stick around a little longer and the competition wanes and it's not as easy just to throw products up there. But let's talk about that right now. Just some of the issues right now that you see with logistics. You're in it. We're in it. We're not in it at your scale. I mean, our issues are like, why is it taking 4 weeks for something to check in? We need that inventory.
That's a question I want to know the answer to.
Yeah.
Why does it take so dang long to get like a pallet checked in compared to like a small package?
Great question. So it is all about setup. So the FCs are set up to either, and it's really, really focused on like what technology they're using, what equipment they're using. So obviously a pallet and a small package, package are different sizes, different, require different handling. So they go into different queues, and just depending on staffing and labor and hours and all this stuff, Amazon has to kind of balance all of this stuff. Small package, it goes super easy. Like it's literally scan and kind of go. Whereas pallet-based receiving actually does require some math and some higher thinking and whatnot. They program a lot of that into their tools, but it is generally faster. So another great example is even delivery windows. So UPS has a standing delivery time every day at every Amazon fulfillment center. Depending upon what LTL carrier you have, they may have standing appointments, especially if they're the Amazon partnered ones. But even those sometimes have to literally get into a portal, request an appointment, and those appointments are few and far between at times, especially during Q4. And so Amazon's dealing with stuff that we're dealing with as well too. They're dealing with labor shortages, with COVID outbreaks, with difficult availability of workers in general. So they're trying to balance all of these different things and work towards their optimal backlogs and whatnot. So it's, again, there's no real good reason for it. It's just them trying to balance all of these competing interests and get stuff off trucks and onto shelves.
You'd think it would be opposite. Like, I'm sending you a pallet. Everything on the pallet is the same SKU. Scan the thing and let's move on. But it takes so, like, I was talking to the time it takes for a pallet to get checked in versus a small package. I could just send a small package and get it in inventory a lot quicker, right?
Usually faster. Yep. And a lot of that, like I said, is between the delivery windows that they have to, available to them in terms of LTL versus small parcel. And some of it is like internal of just staffing and how do they get stuff in. I was actually thinking back, Dustin, to something you were saying. Like, I think about how our terminology has changed over the years. So you had storage fees, and then you had the dreaded long-term storage fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then not too long ago, there was IPI,
Yep.
and we're scratching our heads and figuring out what that means. And now there's the dreaded restock limits, which just creates absolute havoc. If anyone's figured it out, write a book, because they seem to change every hour, and it's not even like hitting a moving target. It's like you're blindfolded, spun around, someone's got the target, you're in the dark, and the whole room's on fire. That's what you're trying to hit. It's absolutely amazing, the flexibility you have to have. And so you guys nailed it right. I mean, long gone are the days where you could import 10,000 units directly into an Amazon facility and let them sit and sell, at your leisure. Those restock limits have really thrown a wrench into everyone's planning. And so you also said it perfectly. Like, 3PLs are indispensable these days. Like, you got to have a good partner that can meet customers where they are. We love to throw around the term omni-channel all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I love the counterbalance to that, which is omni-fulfillment. So if you can't fulfill all of your channels from the same place, you're hamstringing yourself. And so you got to find a 3PL that can do all of it, that can inject into FBA, that can do direct to consumer, that can do storage, that can do, Walmart we were talking about. Like, you guys know it, when you import, especially these days, you're talking 6 months, 9 months, maybe even a year from manufacturing, from raw goods to finished goods into the United States. Now, if you have to go to separate 3PLs, one that does Amazon, one that does Walmart, one that does your D2C, like, you have to commit to that at a certain point in that process. You find a 3PL that can omni-fulfill, and you can every day change where you want your inventory to be. Because if the last year and a half has taught us anything, is that brand loyalty, channel loyalty is gone. Like, if people can't find it on Amazon, they're going to go to Walmart. If they can't find it at Walmart, they're going to go to Costco. And if they can't find it there, they're going to go to wherever.com and try to buy something because of limited availability. We're in a unique world where, a year or two ago, you guys even mentioned it, you could order hundreds of thousands of units and then fulfill everything. Like, you didn't have to make tough decisions of where you wanted your inventory. These days, it's now like, where do you want to be? Or better yet, where are your customers, and can you get them the inventory where, they might still have some loyalty at? So it's a unique world we're in, and 3PLs that can adapt to that, those are the ones that are thriving right now. Like, you can't just be good at one thing anymore. You can't be the Amazon expert. You can't be the D2C expert. You can't be the Walmart expert or Target expert. Like, you got to figure out how to get inventory everywhere, because folks are everywhere. That's just customers are.
We got a few comments here real quick. I want to go. I'm just starting the communication with suppliers and getting samples. I'm enjoying your content. Scared to death over here for my first shipment to my house. So this is a seller sending their first shipment to their house. She did no idea what they're doing. What do you got here?
So I'll tell a funny story. So I mentioned that I transitioned from the warehouses at Amazon into FBA, and they really actively encourage you as an Amazon FBA employee to go out, buy some stuff, do FBA. And I'm like, okay, I'm a relatively educated guy. I know Amazon, this FBA thing can't be too tough. Now, granted, this was 10 years ago. So I tried to do the math in my head. So I went out, I did retail arbitrage. I went out, bought some stuff at some dollar store. I can't even remember what they were. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend the weekend. I'm going to do this. It took me all weekend long to list stuff, to create a shit. And I'm scratching my head. I'm talking to my wife, like, how can this be so difficult? Like, I grew up in Amazon. I know this stuff. I'm in FBA now. I'm calling some of our IT guys over the weekend going, what button do I hit? And this is so intuitive. If you want my immediate feedback, this sucks. You got to make this better. But so I absolutely understand the difficulties of inbounding. It is scary, especially if you're importing stuff, the length it takes to get. First and foremost, read. There are excellent videos out there. Amazon actually even has a few that are pretty good. I say that because I helped produce a couple of them. that they still use. But there's tons and tons of great education, not only on the Amazon website, YouTube. Go out there and look at it. Don't try to fly this alone. Stand on the shoulders of giants. That people have done this before you. There's tons and tons of great content out there. I absolutely encourage hands-on the first few times, like figure out what that process is. But as you scale and grow, man, like I say it because I live it and breathe it. Supply chain ain't easy, and you've got probably better, more important things to do. Kris and Dustin, you guys mentioned how back in the day you guys didn't touch anything. There's a point in that. Like, there are whole college degrees on supply chain and whatnot. Let some of the professionals do that stuff. But definitely hands-on experience you can't replace. Just dig in, learn, realize you're going to make some mistakes. It's even as great as the education is out there, you're going to have some hiccups and bumps. So, not great advice, but just roll up your sleeves, learn a little bit, and just dive into it.
When's a good time to go to 3PL? So move from the garage and let me get a 3PL.
I think that's a tough answer. I think everyone has their own kind of breaking point. I've talked to sellers where like they're just beating up their house. It's a 24/7 hour job, and most entrepreneurs are kind of type A, and if they see work, they're going to do work. And if it's constantly in your house, like, man, that's tough. So I think the breaking point for most folks, or the tipping point for most folks, is like, what do you want to spend your time doing? Do you want to spend your time labeling items, or even if you're ambitious, managing a small warehouse, crew? Like that's stuff that is essential. Trust me, like that's my job. I hope it's essential. But like if you are into marketing, if you are into finding the next cool thing for sale, if you are into sourcing, like this back end stuff just doesn't, you can outsource that and and focus your particular skill set that you brought to this company, this growing business. Like focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the best business advice I've ever gotten is like figure out what your strengths are, maximize the heck out of them, and like offshore, like get someone else doing all the stuff that you're not particularly good at. So
couldn't agree more on that one. And the inventory side of it and the fulfillment side, the only way you can possibly scale is when you do outsource it. Like that, like I'm saying, that was the beauty of FBA in the beginning. And when we were starting Amazon, you could treat that as your omni fulfillment source. It doesn't really make that much sense. It's more difficult to do now. I mean, I remember I was fulfilling every order. If it came from my website, I fulfilled it from FBA. If it came from eBay, I fulfilled it from FBA. It didn't matter where I came from. But the costs associated with that don't make sense anymore. And you need a good 3PL service. But I think to answer Kel's question even more about just getting it shipped to your house, like you mentioned, Brian, the first time, if you're just starting, is critical in every way. You need to do that first shipment into Amazon yourself. Go through how all that looks. It gives you a chance to like inspect your products, understand things that like, you may have a 10% defect rate that you didn't know about. You'd rather find that at your house than getting a bad, 10% bad reviews because you shipped it all in. So there's a lot of things you learn in that process. But then if you're going to scale, it's quickly move to experts like you're talking about, which let's talk about that. Let's talk about what fulfillment, warehousing, everything looks like with Netrush. What are you guys able to do? And what's the benefit for somebody working with us for all of their omni fulfillment?
I think you just hit on it. I love that word, omni fulfillment. We do it all. Just bottom line, we are super flexible. We are able to pivot quickly. Like I said, if nothing else in the last year and a half that we've learned is that like you can't be a one trick 3PL. You got to be able to do Walmart, Target, Amazon, D2C, kitting, bundling. You got to impact the customer. So we're big enough that we understand like the ins and outs of the business. We've got expertise in every area: transportation, warehousing, supply chain, logistics, like you name it. And we know the channels. Like we've worked with Walmart directly. We work with Amazon directly. Like we meet with them. We talk to them. Like we understand the processes. But we're also small enough to like, we're people and we understand your business is incredibly important. And, we're a seller. Like we also help sell things. So we understand the importance of inventory, reconciliation. We understand about, knowing where things are and cycle times. Kris, you're talking about why it takes 4 weeks. Like we understand why it takes 4 weeks. And there are all sorts, we could have a whole nother podcast on this. Like what are all the tips and tricks about like, how self-induced pain in terms of getting stuff into Amazon, and like what are the best practices. Like we've lived that for 15 plus years. So big that we can leverage a lot of our resources, small that we can be personable and talk to you as people. And ultimately flexible. Like we've got automation, we've got manual processes for large, big, weird things. We are obsessed with customers as well too. Like I mentioned earlier, we understand like that box on the front door is important as anything else. So that's us in a nutshell. Sorry if I go a little long.
No, that's great.
So let's what we do too. So that's hopefully that comes across.
So let's say, well, I'm now taking these services for my brand. I've got 20,000 units coming over in a container going to the Netrush warehouse. So then anything like FBM orders, they're fulfilled out of the warehouse. If I want to send in 300 units to Amazon FBA, how does that look? Is that automated by you guys? Do I just send you a note that I want to send this in? How about are you integrated with my Shopify website? When I get an order off of Shopify, is that automated? What am I having to do other than get you inventory? And what's that look like?
Yeah, we have lots of options for that. We have folks that are highly automated, want a portal and never want to like interact with a human being, which is absolutely fine. We can do that. So you can just put in, you got 10,000 in, you just tell us where you want things to go. Yes, we integrate with your D2C. We can integrate with your Amazon platform, your Walmart platform. You can put in orders. We've also got client managers where you can actually, it's crazy, call up and talk to someone and like walk through like, what you want to do and, how fast we can, what we're seeing turnaround times not only locally, but like with your different channels. So we've got lots of different options based off kind of what the client, what the brand wants to do. So, but yes, we have a platform, we have a portal. You can see real time what your stuff is doing and where it's going. So we try to make it, like we've been on both sides. So we try to like what would I want to see and try to create that for our customers and clients.
Let's say I'm a brand and Amazon is just part of my sales channel, but I do a lot of brick and mortar. Do we handle that as well? Like if I'm a brand and we get on with our 3PL services, can I go brick and mortar to fulfill those kind of orders as well?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of working with Netrush. You send us one container. I don't know if there's a thing you could do with it that we can't do. Like I want to be challenged that way. Like I want to figure out something and then we'll figure it out because we're pretty flexible and we learn fast that way. So yeah, we can absolutely do fulfillment to your big brick and mortars, to small mom and pops. As long as it has an address, man, we can ship it there.
We got another comment here. Let's pull this up. This is from our own Raj here. How much of an advantage is it to be able to consider supply chain issues and metrics alongside marketing, catalog, et cetera, given the modern commerce now requires an integrated view?
Oh, good question, Raj.
That's a good question. That's tough. I mean, so we have an advantage now, right? Like we're not just a 3PL. We also work with the marketing team, the content team. So we're getting information from all different directions. And this kind of helps with the 3PL, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Data is king. Amazon used to be seen as an e-commerce giant. Then it got to be a supply chain giant. But man, let no one fool you. They're a data giant as well, too. And like you said, when you can bring in lots of different disciplines, marketing information, customer information, 3PL information, like the more you have, I've never seen someone say like, oh, that's too much data. I don't want that, give me less. It's always about give me more, and how do I synthesize it, bring it in, make better decisions, understand my customer better and meet them where they want to be. And that want to be is important. They might not even know they need to be there yet. And you're helping them figure out like, what's the next thing and how do I educate and how do I promote and how do I cross sell between different brands? And I mean, there's just so much opportunity out there. Raj is the king in terms of data and analytics. He just makes the best at times. I'm just the guy who moves boxes, but like I understand the importance of data, man. It's and especially when you can bring it in from lots of different sources, it's just absolutely amazing.
Every time you answer a question, it makes me think of another question. Yeah. So I gotta know, how do we compare to Amazon as far as like fees and stuff there goes? Because we all three of us know fees are going up, storage fees are going up. How do we compare with that, or how do we compete even that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Amazon keeps them secret, so it's absolutely great that we can benchmark against that. So we're very competitive, And I don't know if you guys have used Amazon FBA prep services. All I can say is that our quality is fantastic. But I won't disparage any other services out there. But we know and understand, and it's not just Amazon. We know and understand Walmart. We understand Target. Like these are all different channels, and we are able to be cost competitive. We are extremely quality competitive. Like we understand the end customer and what they want, and then we work backwards from there, regardless of channel. Like we take Amazon's quality standards as a low benchmark. And our goal is to like far exceed them, because like I said, we're crazy about customers as well. We really want them happy at the when they're unpackaging that item.
There's a lot there. I mean, prep, that's huge.
I mean, seriously, every time he answers a question, I have another question about the answer.
So this is a part of prep that is always fascinating to me. A lot of times you'll want to have an insert card or something in your packaging. Whether that's what for whatever reason you're doing that, and a lot of times you change your mind or change tactics on that. So like, is that something that you can also be done? Can there, like when you're packaging products to ship them in, can you put in product inserts or things like that, or change them as necessary?
Absolutely, incredibly dynamic that way. We've done incredibly like personalized stuff. We can do, mass literature in there. We can do samples. Obviously, it all has to adhere to the policies of Amazon. I'll put that asterisk out there. But yes, and that's the great thing about working with a flexible 3PL is that anyone that are kind of worth their salt are able to really focus on your customer. Like what do you want that experience to look like, and we can tailor it as well too. We do specialized packaging. Like if FBA is great, absolutely fantastic, but Amazon owns that experience then. It's going to be an Amazon box toting whatever Amazon program they've got going on right then. And for a brand that is that wants to be very customer forward, like we can work with you and do specialized packaging, specialized inserts. We can do almost like a gift wrap experience. Like when you're opening that up, like how cool does that feel? Packaging makes a huge difference. And I don't know if a lot of us think about it. I recently got the new Apple iPhone. I'm an Apple tech junkie, but like Apple makes that experience amazing.
And you probably kept the box, right?
I do. It's weird. And my wife looks at me and like, why are you keeping this box? I'm like, I'm the supply chain guy.
Box is amazing. What do they call it? The friction coefficient of like when you open it, it's like the right amount. So it's kind of like stuck to it a little bit when it comes up. I don't know.
You pull up the tabs. It's white. It's pretty. You unbox it. It's like a gift, and it's easy to get to your item, and it's cool. Like that's the experience we want for your customer. Like, and we partner with brands. We partner with them to like, what is that experience, and what do you want people feeling? We have some brands that are incredibly eco-friendly, so we make sure that that the materials we're using are curbside recyclable, and there's all sorts of cool things you can do to message. That packaging is really valuable real estate. And if you do FBA, and God bless, FBA is great. You let Amazon own that experience. If you go more D2C, it's amazing the things you can do to really wow your customers.
Amazon does do that pretty well. Sorry, Kris, but you'll get a package, and then their tape is like the next TV series that's coming out on Prime. It's amazing the way that they use that real estate. But packaging, it's massive, and you hear a lot of that talk. I mean, that's a talking point right now, just about that's a differentiating factor. I mean, if you can do that, you can change just how the customer perceives your product and perceives your brand. And I can't believe it, but all over social media, there's all these like unboxing videos, and I don't know who's watching this, but tons of people are, where they're just filming people unbox while Brian's watching them.
Logistics guy is.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's like people are getting so excited about the unboxing process of packaging that it can turn into like a viral video for your product. Absolutely. Just by doing that right.
And it's I say amazing world because I'm in it, but like packaging, like one, it has to protect the item. It has a function, and it absolutely has to perform. Funny, geeky supply chain side fact here. Your average brick and mortar packaging gets touched about 5, maybe 10 times before it gets to a customer. Your average e-commerce is like north of 25. So your packaging, if as a brand, if you're thinking about packaging the same for e-commerce as you do for brick and mortar, stop. Like it has to go through incredibly different experiences. So it's got to fit that form and function. But you're also right. Like there's all sorts of advertising you can do with it. There's an entire experience of unboxing that you can do with it. Like there's so much in that world. It's there's a lot there.
If a brand has a product and they need the product to get into a package along with an insert card. I know you talked about that. We handle that. That is something that we do.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if a brand has product and they want to ship it to our 3PL, and then they take the packaging from their supplier and they ship it to our 3PL, and they send us the inserts and say, Brian, I need 1 unit to go in 1 bag with 1 insert card. Go.
Done. Easy. And actually, we can make that even easier. So we know packaging. Like we've got contracts with packaging companies. Like you don't even need to find your own packaging. Like you tell us what you want it to look like. We design it. We make it for you. You get to bless it, and we do that. Same thing with the inserts. Like we've got printing companies that we work with, and because we do volume, like we do a good job with that. So like we can make it even easier for you. Like you just tell us you want cool packaging and a cool insert, and we can help you make all that as well. So it's like we're trying to knock down barriers here based off like things we've already done. So
that's great.
That is great, and that's what makes that's why I'm so excited now to be a part of Netrush, because of the integration, like you talked about, all the things talking together. I mean, that was an integration right there. Like we have a creative team here that can help design these things that are in it, that are doing product design and packaging design all the time.
That is a great point, Dustin. I don't, and nor does my team, do any design. Like
you don't do pretty. You don't do pretty.
It would be awesome.
But that's where that integration comes in, and now to have advertising and fulfillment and creative and like brand protection and just all those spokes of the wheel together, because they all work together. That's what's so exciting about all of this. We have this is a great question. Bring in Connor's question. What's the easiest versus most difficult type of product from a supply chain perspective on Amazon?
Good question. How much time do we have? So, the great thing is I've got experience on both sides of the fence. I understand kind of the 3PL brand side. I also understand like the Amazon side of it, and I also have folks on the team here that work, almost 30 plus, over 30 plus years on the transportation side. So understanding like every step in that process is pretty cool. Big, heavy, bulky is always challenging. It's not prohibitive because there's all sorts of fantastic items in that space. It's just, you think about e-commerce, like they tend not to ride on conveyors pretty well. They need specialized handling to get to the customers, tend to have a little higher damage rates. We have to think about packaging, all of which is doable, but makes it a little more difficult in the process. Like there's got to be a lot more thought taken into it about how we do that. Because again, we're always focusing on the end customer and working backwards from that. Like, how do we protect it? How do we make sure it gets there on time? All that good stuff. So big, heavy, bulky is always challenging. Beyond that, I mean, you can think of really specialized items. Glass liquids are a little difficult, both fragile and messy if they break. Again, all of that just requires thought process ahead of time. Like, what does packaging look like? How do we ultimately protect the item in transit, yet making it kind of a cool unboxing experience? what's neat, and I think Dustin, you mentioned it earlier, like these types of barriers, these types of difficulties, man, we love them actually, because like if we can figure this out, we can figure anything out. One of our co-founders used to, love the phrase like the bigger the walls, like the better. Like we're good at climbing walls. Like we can figure this stuff out. So to date, we haven't done. Let me think. We haven't done live animals. I'm not inviting that, but those are tough. Not even sure you can sell those on Amazon. But we've done almost everything else. We've done big, heavy, bulky. We've done hazmat. We've done cold storage, all things that are well within our wheelhouse. So, we tend to be the kind of folks that like challenges and like helping people figure out difficulties. So we generally don't say no, but we can also articulate kind of the efforts it's going to take, the cost it's going to take. It's fun kind of solving problems.
Cold storage, that's an interesting one, because I was going to ask about perishables. I would have thought perishables would be tough too.
They are, because I won't kid you, getting anything to Phoenix in August that is meltable is tough, no matter how many cold packs you put around it, you got to think about timing. Even in a great example, a current brand we're working with, very meltable. We have to think about what day of the week we ship it on and stop shipping on certain days because we don't want it sitting on their porch on like a Saturday or Sunday or in their mailbox or whatnot. So again, nothing's like undoable. It just requires good integration, a smart, savvy 3PL that can help you like figure out, like what's the best way to get it to your customer.
I got a question on that, because when you said meltable, I remember before this summer, so I don't know, it was like April or something, I got an email from Amazon, and maybe they send this out every year and I've just skipped over it, but it's like, start removing your inventory that's potentially meltable. And then at like the bottom of the email, it's like, our warehouses can reach temperatures of like 175 degrees. I'm like, is that true? Does everything melt at 175 degrees? I mean, do they get that hot sometimes in there?
Well, I think they're being a little loose with the term their warehouse. Generally, where you see those temperatures are in the trailers as they're being delivered, or in the delivery vehicles themselves, or the mailbox. So I think they're just generically using that term to talk about that entire experience. Yeah, what's interesting, even if you have like refrigerated cars and you have refrigerated deliveries, and if that sits on someone's front porch for 6, 8, 10 hours, like you're going to lose it. Like you got to think about the internal temperatures. There's all sorts of cool technologies out there with sensors and cool IT technologies that'll let you know exactly what temperature it's ridden at the entire time. So there's all sorts of solutions out there. But yeah, Amazon's done that for a while. So it's the dreaded Q2, Q3 meltable season. And it's crazy what can be considered meltable. Like gummies at a certain temperature become, one big glob of gummy. And so, even if Amazon doesn't require a removal of that as a good steward of the brands, like you got to start talking about, like, you don't want it showing up in one giant hunk. So how do we, do we remove it, and we do, direct to consumer fulfillment with some cold storage thrown in there, or cold shipping thrown in there. Like you got to have someone that understands like all of the different paths forward, because you don't want to stop selling, for 6 months out of the year. So how do you, maximize your sales, really making sure that your consumers are happy and getting it to them, in one piece.
Yeah, just one big glob of Hasbro gummies to show up at your house, like this giant glob. Yeah. That'd be fun. Okay, so what can we as sellers, what can we do? Because we're always shipping in inventory to FBA, but the thought process of like, does my UPC code need to go on the front? Does it need to go on the back? How big does my UPC code need to be? Does you have to, like, what can we do to streamline the check-in process? You can obviously tell that the check-in process is a headache for me. So yes. What can we, even on the packaging, on the box, what are some things that, like, when we put the labels on, is a better placement? What are some of those stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that phrase, and I use it a lot, is, think about the customer and work backwards. And in this scenario, your customer is that receiving associate on the Amazon.
Yep.
And so I try to think backwards, and I was fortunate. I was there. I worked in those areas. I actually did the processes for a while, so I can reverse engineer that pretty well. But one thing that we start with, as much as possible, one ASIN unit containers. Meaning, if you're going to do a small parcel, you only put in one ASIN. Not necessarily one unit, but like one type of ASIN. Like you can put in 50 of one,
in one box,
into one box or one pallet. There's no variation there. And so theoretically on the inbound dock, they're going to receive it in one of two ways. And I'm just going to talk about small parcel for a second. They're going to scan the box. And if like there's some magic and voodoo behind it, like if you're a trusted kind of person, they're just going to throw that right onto the conveyance. It's going to receive everything that you said was in that box. If there's some question, they're going to scan every individual item then. And so the easier you make it for that person just kind of scan, and go, the less problematic it becomes, the less opportunity for error there is. And so there's a dreaded exception line that goes to the right usually. And so all of what I'm telling you is to try to stay off that dreaded exception path. We talked earlier about the errors upon errors. Well, that's the first error that goes down that path, and then someone makes another mistake, and then all hell breaks loose.
You want to stay in the left lane. Stay in the left lane.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
interesting. I didn't realize that, and that answers a question I've always had. Like sometimes I'll get a package, it'll be checked in, and then like 10 seconds later, it's like fully received. And then sometimes I'll get a package checked in, and then I'm watching, it's like so slow. It's like 10 units have been checked in, 20. So I guess that one went to the right.
Generally, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. Everything we do in our processes, we do with like, let's make Amazon's job as easy as humanly possible. So like one ASIN containers, you were talking about barcode placement, make it as however you do it, make it as visible as possible. We actually even slap like labels on the side if there's a mixed ASIN. Like we absolutely have to have multiple ASINs in a box. We're going to throw a label on the side that lets them tells that associate that. Trying to think of some other things. Making sure titles are readily available because sometimes theoretically they have to scan and verify title. Making sure those are easy. I'm trying to think of some other ones.
Well, sometimes I'll get a package and the brand or the packaging has a sticker that's covering the UPC code.
Yes.
Why does that happen?
Oh, great one. So, and this is no secret, and you can read about this. Like every Amazon associate has some productivity rates they need to hit, and so their first job is to scan the box. Then they're going to usually scan one item out of that box to kind of confirm stuff. If that first scan doesn't scan perfectly, it's going to get kind of like rejected, go to that reprocessing, kind of fixed problem area. And so they don't spend a lot of time trying to diagnose problems. Like they're going to pick up that first one and it doesn't scan perfectly. They're just going to relabel everything.
Okay.
And then typically they're going to charge you back for that. And
I was going to say, am I getting charged with that? How do I know?
You sometimes will. What you're going to see is you get that email and it's going to pop up. You've got an error. If you click into it, go into Seller Central, you're going to find, hopefully where the link works well, and it's going to take you right to that shipment. It should have your labeling fees or whatever fees associated with that are on there. You can also, if you're really good, go into your reconciliation kind of reports, all 17 of them, and maybe find where that is. But it's tough. So generally, you can link it off that email and see that there was a fee associated with that. But I'll tell you this. It's something as simple, and you reminded me of another one. Like I think it's like every 10th label we rescan in our warehouse. That may seem ridiculous, but it is to really ensure that we have high quality printing going on. We print consistently, like we're shipping out tens of thousands of items a day. And if one printer goes bad, it goes out of alignment a little bit, itty bitty little speck in one of those barcodes, man, it all breaks loose over at Amazon. So we're consistently checking. As a seller, it seems weird, but I would check that as well too. I don't know if you need to go every 10 units, or we're a little overboard on that. We're pretty zealous about our quality, but like even once a day, just grab a hand scanner, scan it, make sure it links, it does everything. Because you think about that inbound associate on the Amazon dock, they're just scanning. If something doesn't work, they just push it aside and keep going. So
if it scans in the Amazon app, is it going to scan into the warehouse?
I wish I could tell you yes, because I've gotten those emails, and like I know how sometimes they send you the picture. I literally will take my phone up to the picture and it'll scan, and I'm like, dudes, come on! Like I can scan it off a picture off my computer with my phone, and you're saying it didn't scan with the best technology on the planet at Amazon? So and the reality of it is sometimes in the speed of what they need to kind of keep producing. If they're holding the scanner at a weird angle, if something's just, sometimes they're just going to poke it aside because they just got to get to that next unit. So in all reality, I wish I could tell you yes, but it's sometimes there's other factors and forces going on.
I recently opened up a ticket to remeasure some of my products because of the packaging has changed and the quantity changed. How does that work?
Oh, great. I mean, man, you're asking some good questions. And like I could go on for like 20 minutes on this one, but I'll try to keep
I know we're getting close. We don't want to keep it too long, but
I'm fine.
Okay.
So there's all sorts of sources of information about product dimensions. So if you're creating a new product, you're the first one, you are that source. So you put in product dimensions, it's going to prompt you in the workflow, you put it in. And so that's one source of information. When it hits the inbound dock, then generally they're going to sideline that unit because it has no history in Amazon, and they're going to use their fancy weight machines, and which go to like the 100th of an inch, 100th of a pound, and they're going to get really good measurements then. That's going to trump your measurements you put in, because Amazon always thinks their data is better than your data. I mean, it's their data. And so then they process through. And so as they pick the item, pack the item, and ship the item, it goes across another scale, which it's going to capture outbound information. So it's going to the dimensions of the box, the dunnage, the weight, all that stuff. It's also verifying the weight of the item in the box. Now, there's some complicated or not so complicated math that goes on the background. It knows the box, it knows the appropriate dunnage, so it's learning all of this stuff real time. And so it's continually updating that system as every unit ships. And so it gets more and more data, and that database on the Amazon side gets better and better and better. And so finally, it's going to settle on like what your product dimensions are. Now, when you change product dimensions, that throws a whole wrench into the Amazon system, because it's not going to measure it on the inbound side, because it's really not going to know that things have changed. It's always measuring on the outbound side then. And so if the product dimensions change or if the weight significantly change, it's going to get kicked out into an exception loop. Because the worry then is that somehow through their system, someone picked it wrong and someone packed it wrong. They're trying to prevent a wrong item getting to you. And I know we've all gotten that. You order a tennis racket and a hockey stick shows up. Like, again, we can go a whole nother show about why that happens. But so they're checking the weight consistently. When you change it, it gets kicked out. They're going to scan it, and they're basically going to reset that weight. I mean, it's much more complicated than that. I'm sure it's changed over the years since I've gone, but conceptually, this is what happens. And so then they start weighing it all over again. It gets to a trusted point again, and then just kind of settles back to that.
If the item is the same, if the items are similar length, but the weights differ, there's products out there where the weights kind of differ from SKU to SKU, but they're the same, they're in the same category, like they're the same size. How does that work? So if I sell an item that weighs 8 ounces, and then the next customer orders it and the item weighs 10 ounces, what's happening there with my dimensions?
If they're different ASINs, nothing, because this is all done on an ASIN level. So even if you have a T-shirt and it comes in, the Denver Bronco variety and the Kansas City variety, they're going to weigh the exact same, but those are different ASINs in their database.
They're the same ASIN.
They'll have different child ASINs associated with it. So it goes down to almost the XOO level, not necessarily the BOO level, or even higher than that. So like there's a whole family tree of how Amazon connects all this stuff. It goes down to the lowest branch of that tree and treats every item as unique, even though they might be the exact same item. Like even though the printing is different, like it's the same item, it weighs nothing different, dimensions are nothing different. They measure it differently.
Got it. We got a question here from Connor again. I got groceries delivered in Perfect Foods, and they started drainable ice packs. Does Amazon do this for perishable and meltable, or not yet?
I don't think yet. I haven't seen it. I've read recently that Amazon's trying to really green up their meltable and grocery delivery. When I was with them way back in the day, they were actually really focusing on like totes and reusable stuff like that. They can drop off at your house and pick up. I've only read on kind of on a high level that they're trying to, like I said, green up their that a meltable process, but I haven't seen anything more than that. But
they could start by stop sending so much of that bubble wrap for like one little item in my box, right? How much bubble wrap do I need for a pair of three-piece like headphones? Yeah. I get a little box that's got 6 slats of bubble wrap. That drives me crazy.
It's interesting. Sometimes it's just an absolute mistake on Amazon's part. Like someone grabs the wrong box, or What's super interesting sometimes is like, so for whatever reason, a small item gets into like a non-sortable facility, like a big, heavy, bulky facility. And so they don't even have small boxes, like, but they still got to ship it. There's all sorts of interesting reasons why that happens. Amazon and they also always are playing. There's a counterbalance here. Like when you're at a pack station at Amazon, you have about 20, 30, maybe that many boxes in front of you. And when you scan the item, it tells you exactly what box to pick. In a perfect world, you'd have like 100 boxes to pick from, and the box would fit the item exactly. But when you have 100 items to pick from, even when a computer's telling you to pick it, there's a lot of decisions then and a lot of choices and a lot of, movement and whatnot to get those boxes. So Amazon's always trying to do this balance of like what is very productive on the warehouse floor to get things moving and what's very good for box size and delivery and transportation and all that. It's an interesting world.
This has been great.
Oh my gosh.
I could keep going. I swear, every time you answer something, I have another question.
This has been one of my most favorite conversations. I feel like we need to pencil out a lot more time next time.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere. We're going to get you back
you guys
on.
You know where to find me now.
Yeah. Be careful. We may be sending you invites all the time. Hey, come and join us.
I feel like I just took a tour of an Amazon warehouse. Like I feel like
visually, mentally, I went through one.
What's funny, I do some guest lecturing at times, and I actually have a whole presentation of like what they look like, how they function, what the Amazon FC network looks like. It's actually pretty interesting. Like they have really specialized buildings and how they all interact, and it's just amazing how many touches, how much Amazon has actually taken over all of the supply chain. Like we can do a whole, like I said, we got a bunch of podcasts.
I got one more. Yeah. FC transfer. What I send it to one warehouse. What determines it goes to other warehouses?
There's lots of reasons. The most common one is Amazon is again doing a balancing game here. Ultimately, if you were like a 1P distributor for Amazon, like sending in, they're going to have you send it to probably 20, 30, 40, maybe, a crazy number of fulfillment centers, because ultimately Amazon wants all of their product everywhere. So no matter who orders it, you get that almost instantaneous delivery. What's interesting, especially in the FBA world, is you're not a distributor, you're a customer as well too. And so Amazon has to draw that balance of like, how many splits do they want? Sometimes you'll get one, sometimes you'll get three, sometimes you'll get 6, 9. There's lots of reasons for that. But usually Amazon's only going to have you take the same product type and split it 3 different ways. And 3 is just kind of I'm sure there's lots of logic behind it, but I consider it kind of a made up number, which is it gets it distributed throughout the United States. Normally what you'll see is it's West Coast, it's East Coast, and it's somewhere in between. And then immediately when it hits those fulfillment centers, that's when they spoke it out and try to get to every fulfillment center. I mean, they literally have hundreds of them now. If you look at Amazon's, a PL sheet, like transportation at last mile delivery is one of their largest callouts every year. So the closer they can get it to the end customer, even internally, because their transportation network is that good, it decreases that last mile delivery, which saves them overall money. So that's why. When
they scan like 100 units in, it say like 20 units stay, 80 units go, and
that's
exactly
they move. Okay, that's exactly it. Yeah. So what'll happen is that one box comes in, it won't get carton received because it has to be split, and it's going to go to a specialized area where they're just going to, it's called cross dock. They're going to take some of it, keep it in that fulfillment center, and then most of it's just going to go everywhere.
What if I sent it as a carton?
That's fine. They'll open it up and break it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Kris. That I understand how important that is for Amazon to do, but man, is that annoying when your stuff gets checked in and then it's like 5 more days before it's live, and they put the listing as active, and it gets like kills your conversion rate because it says on that listing available in like 4 weeks or ships in 4 weeks. It's like
that's when we turn on the 3PL with Netrush.
That's right. Then we turn
let's go
FBM model. Let's do it.
Absolutely. We're great backstop that way.
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
this has been great.
Brian, this has been so much fun. I mean, anybody listening right now, if you can tell, why would you not want Brian managing your inventory and fulfillment and 3PL and everything else? I mean, just that. I don't know. Is there anybody who's got more knowledge than you? This has been so much fun.
I'm telling you, one question led to another.
Exactly. So we will definitely get you back on. I know we've gone way over, but it's been worth it. We've had a lot of fun. We'll specify some specific topics, and then we'll talk for an hour on just one topic next time. But thanks for coming on, Brian. It's been great. Thanks for everybody who's listening right now and watching. If you are having inventory issues or logistics issues, or you need a 3PL that is omni fulfillment, as Brian likes to say, which is a great term, reach out to us at Netrush. We'll start the conversation, see if we can meet you where you are in your needs. Same thing goes for if you're struggling with advertising right now, or you're looking to automate it and optimize it. You can go to Solozo.com. You can book a demo, upper right-hand corner. You'll get on a call with either Kris or myself. Obviously, we love talking about anything Amazon. So we'll talk to you about anything, and we'll also show you how Solozo can help optimize your ads for you. So go to Solozo.com, check us out there. And also, if you love content like this and you want to just be hanging around on Facebook and all of a sudden Brian pops up on our conversation here because you're liking our Solozo Facebook page, make sure you do that. We are live streaming on Solozo's Facebook, Solozo's LinkedIn, also on Solozo's YouTube channel. And you can subscribe to our podcast anywhere that podcasts are available. So make sure you do that so you don't miss out great conversations like we had today. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Brian, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. We got a great one tomorrow. So we'll see you out there.